Good evening. The halo has slipped for Prince William, or should I say, the crown. The King's eldest son and heir to the throne has rightly won plaudits for his dignity and stoicism in the face of endless attacks on his family and the monarchy from his younger brother Harry. But this week I read with utter shock and astonishment a statement, no less, from our next king about the conflict in Gaza, calling for an end to the fighting. Now, who wouldn't agree that the carnage in the Middle East is a catastrophic disaster and a devastating tragedy? But how arrogant and high-minded of Prince William, a rich and privileged aristocrat whose platform was earned by accident of birth, to cast himself as some kind of peace envoy and international statesman. It demonstrates a hubris and naivety that would have even his uncle, Prince Andrew, blushing. I'm sorry, but who do these people think they are? There may well be a case for an immediate end to the fighting, who knows, but a senior member of the British royal family should not be making it. How will his statement be received in Israel, where Jewish people suffered their worst single day of slaughter since the Holocaust, and where over 130 hostages, including women, children and the elderly, remain captive? It might not be his intention, but how will Jewish people living in this country feel to see their Prince of Wales offering what could be perceived as succour to a terrorist outfit in Hamas, who would surely only welcome his latest comments? For Israel to drop arms is their plan. In his rather flowery statement, Prince William does his best Winston Churchill impression by saying, even in the darkest hour, we must not succumb to the counsel of despair. I'll be honest, the only thing he's got in common with Winston Churchill is a lack of hair. And in the statement, he makes it all about himself. He says, I continue to cling to the hope that a brighter future can be found, and I refuse to give up on that. Well, that's nice for you. That last refrain has a flavour of global leadership about it, with William pitching himself as some kind of international diplomat and dignitary. This follows a rambling speech at the Queen's Jubilee celebrations in 2022, in which he clearly presented himself as an ambassador for net zero. I'm sorry, William, but if you want that sort of role, you're going to have to ask somebody to elect you. Given that you are part of an arcane institution where your surname bestowed upon you privileged position, that you're going to have to stay out of these matters. That's right, you were born into privilege, you're not elected. Being born in the right womb is not a qualification for a role in international affairs. Yes, he condemned the violence on both sides, addressed the scourge of anti-Semitism and called for the hostages to be released. But the broader message of an end to the fighting calls into question Israel's right to self-defence and its stated military aim of wiping out Hamas, who, let's not forget, are no better than the Nazis. That's why this is such dangerous territory for a senior royal. It's my view that Prince William should stick to opening hospital wings and kissing babies. If he wants to get political, he can kiss off. I like Prince William, but I think he's crossed a line. What's your view? mark@gbnews.com. I'll get to your email shortly, but first, my top pundits: journalist and model Diana Moran, author and commentator Laura Dodsworth, and campaigner and writer Chris Wilde. Can I ask you, Diana Moran, your reaction to this intervention by Prince William, the Prince of Wales?
I do think that he's made a mistake. I think he's crossed the line. I don't think royals should be saying the sort of things that he's saying. I know there are good intentions, but he is not the government. I don't think he should have been saying anything like this at all. I think his grandmother would have been very concerned to have heard him interfering with it.
Yes, I don't remember, Chris Wilde, the Queen commenting on any wars.
Well, I'm sorry, I love the Queen, but she's not here anymore. And I think Princess Diana would have said a lot about this. And he's in his rights as a senior royal to speak about the war. Of course he is. He is a diplomat, Mark, so I disagree with what you've just said there. For the first time, I disagree with you. He's the perfect person to speak up right now because his voice is powerful, and what's going on over there, you know, everybody needs to be having an opinion. If anybody's voice can resonate a chord, it's his. So I think he's in his rights to say as much as he can, as a royalist, as a human being, as a father, yes, speak up, speak out, do what you need to do.
Laura Dodsworth, the Prince of Wales, Prince William, simply wants an end to the fighting, an end to the carnage. What's not to like?
Well, we know all about what he wants because he managed to use a lot of I's in that letter, didn't he? It was very egocentric. Even the very last line of the refrain, I refuse to give up on that. So I'm not sure he's the perfect person to have done this at all for all the reasons you set out. But I'd go a bit further. I said, I think really there's a feeling that he's probably been co-opted a little bit, potentially, by the government.
He's a human being.
Or hang on, let me finish. Potentially co-opted a little bit by the government or the Foreign Office. Because it's a bit strange, isn't it, that he comes out with this in the week that Rishi Sunak's language is hardening up a little bit. So I'm not sure he's done this on his own. After all, where's his statement about the 1 to 2 million Uyghurs who've been forcibly detained in China? I mean, I missed that one. I missed that. I also don't really like this Churchillian reference. I think it should really be beneath him to have done this.
He hasn't earned it. Laura, he hasn't earned the right to use Churchill's language, has he?
He hasn't earned it. But also, Churchill would have said, in this darkest hour, I know, let's nearly finish the job and then let's stop. You know, you talked about Israel's aims. What we have here is a situation where neither side wants a ceasefire. Hamas has said, literally said, it will do it again and again and again, and its founding charter calls for the annihilation of the State of Israel and the death of all Jews. Let's not forget that is their charter. And Israel wants the surrender and the demilitarization of Hamas, a terrorist organisation, and the return of the hostages. So I think that Prince William's really made a misstep with this before he's even king. I think it's a great pity because lots of us really have high hopes for this generation of the royalty, and he's overstepped his line here.
Chris Wilde, you're shaking your head. You don't look happy.
No, I don't. I think, first and foremost, regardless of his position, he's a human being, he's a father. You know, anybody in that position, how could they just stay silent about what's happening over there at the moment? Yes, you can't have a biased opinion, but you can have an opinion, you can have a voice, and that's what he's doing. I don't want the head of the royal family sitting at home in their privileges, not doing anything. I want them to speak up. I want them to be leaders, and he is showing pure leadership by speaking up. Because let's face it, these politicians we've got at the moment, they're useless. So if the royal family can do something and their voice can resonate a chord, so be it.
Chris Wilde, I understand your point of view, and we all want the war to stop. Of course we do, and the carnage. It's devastating what's happening in Gaza. But what would you say to a Jewish person watching this programme who feels offended by that intervention, or indeed someone in Israel following the October the 7th attacks? What would you say to them?
Mark, my opinion on this, war is war. I don't want to see war. I want to see peace. I don't want to see children dying every day. But what I would say to anybody is that, listen, if anybody has a powerful voice and if anybody can speak and with that voice prevent any more killings, then yes, so be it. I think you're picking at straws here. You really are. You really are.
Fair enough. Diana Moran, you get the last word.
Well, I think it's putting the royal family at jeopardy. And at this particular moment in our history, it's all a bit dicey anyhow, and I don't think this has helped.